All right, we're back. Jack of all trades. We got another great episode in store for you guys today. We're going to continue on our NFC breakdown of the draft. We're continuing on from our previous episode where we broke down the NFC East, and we got a lot of details on the spreadsheet and explaining what the spreadsheet is. But really quickly, it's a consensus by the top 50, 60 analysts on and placing a value from 1,000 to the number one pick down to a value of 1 for the last pick, and anywhere in between, there's a value for each draft pick. So we're just going to continue on with the NFC North. Jack, we pull up the spreadsheet and see what we have. Let's take a look at the Chicago Bears and some of their interesting moves they made once again this year. Basically par for the course for the Chicago Bears.
Yeah.
Par.
When we talk about the Chicago Bears and value and draft value, it's an exercise in like not what to do, quite frankly. I mean, they continually show, and we referenced it before in the other videos and the setup podcast, that what value is, and how if you're respecting value and you respect where a guy like could be drafted, so you're respecting the other 32 franchises in value, and the Bears just year in year out have not done that. So in this year, why would it be any different? Now the funny thing about the Bears is, and I'm a Vikings fan and I don't like the Bears, so if it comes off a little biased, so be it. So the Bears, first of all, disrespecting value, they traded away 2 first-round picks to get, one player, Khalil Mack, who's a great player and helps their team in the short term, but in the long term, it cost them 2 first-round draft picks. They had to pay the guy a record salary for an edge rusher, and then because their salary cap was so tight, they had to mortgage some of that to the future, and then they're cash strapped now, and so now they're sitting with just a second-round pick. And their biggest free agent signing other than Khalil Mack was Trey Burton. That's a failure that they cut already, and they $8 million of money on this year's salary cap, and then they go out and spend $9 million on this year or per year on Jimmy Graham, another tight end who most teams don't think is any good. I don't understand why they had to spend so much money on him, but they don't really care because they know better than everybody, according to them. And so then when they get their 43rd pick of the draft, which is their first pick of this year's draft, they go out and they draft right here Cole Kmet, Notre Dame tight end. And I think it's hilarious that he's from Notre Dame, and there's so many Bear fans that are Notre Dame fans. And I think it's hilarious that the kid went to high school in Chicago. I think those are all the wrong reasons to draft a player. And so and I think it's hilarious that tight end is not considered a position of need. I think it's hilarious that the next tight end taken was by New Orleans in the Adam Troutman, in the 105th pick. So there goes another 60 picks before the next tight end is taken. And the odds that the Bears could have traded back and gotten value for that pick, in my opinion, are really good. And so not only do they give a negative 50 on a 138 point pick, they do it at a position that's not considered valuable, and they do it with a position they just spent $20 million on their salary cap. I don't know. It's hilarious. It's horrendous. It's the Bears thinking that they know better than everybody else.
Well, I mean, you'd think, I don't know, just common sense to me, and I'm not an expert at all, but teams, I mean, don't you want more picks, like getting more cracks at it? Like we've said before, and we'll say it again, we don't know who's going to come out of this thing, and also a Hall of Famer, a superstar, a Pro Bowl guy, a practice squad guy. You don't know exactly what you're going to get. We'll see how they all perform, but my goodness, when you go in, if you have that mentality, how do you not just try to get as many picks as you can, especially if you're the Bears, who seem to be just willing to give them away, like they're worthless. Like they're worthless. Right. I don't get it.
The Bears, Ryan Pace, to me, he comes from the Saints, and he he has this, mortgage, win now, aggressive, go get things. But I feel like the Saints do it in a smarter way where they've got Drew Brees, a Hall of Fame quarterback, and he's on a short window because he's 40, and he's been, in his late 30s for a long time. And the Saints have been, giving up future picks, giving up more picks to get more positions of need and giving up future cap space and all the stuff the Bears are doing. But the Saints are kind of doing it from a position of strength, and winning 13 games. Almost, the Saints are winning a lot more games than the Bears. Okay. And they're probably doing it because they have this quarterback who's in a win now. They have a quarterback in a win now, the most important position. They have a proven guy. And so they switched to that win now mode because they had that proven guy. The Bears, they started it with Khalil Mack when they did not have a proven quarterback. Like when I thought Trubisky was bad at the time, but I could be wrong. They could have been right, but truly we didn't know. Obviously we didn't know. They didn't know he was good because he wasn't good. And for the Bears to go do that. Now, granted, they did come back just quickly. They took a nice player with some value, Jalen Johnson, at a position of need corner that made up for it. So they ended up, coming close to breaking even on value here at 239 off of the 286. And it's even 291 on a different consensus. So you took these two together. They did okay. Granted, they should have had 384, but, they gave away, Khalil Mack for money and picks and the whole shooting match.
Yeah, there's a lot involved to that number. Certainly, yeah, you want to try to maximize it as much as you can. But the Green Bay Packers made a lot of interesting moves. They certainly made the headlines with their fan base, taking a quarterback, because as we're talking about teams with good quarterbacks, they certainly have one, a proven guy. And how'd they fare on your board here as far as their draft went?
All right, well, yeah, so yeah, if you look at, I'll transition. The Bears netted 239, and they moved to the Packers. They netted 234. That's a bad number. All right, that's not a good number for a total draft haul. That's not even a first round. It's barely a late first round pick value, just one pick. And the Packers, there's many levels to what the Packers did. So they go out with their first round pick and they trade up. So, which is fine, whatever. They went and they got a quarterback, and so they got a negative value pick for Love because he wasn't by a lot. He wasn't considered to be even, he's a later first round guy, and they didn't need to trade up for it, whatever that might be. But the idea that you're in the last couple years of a Hall of Fame quarterback who's still playing at a fairly high level. Some people think he's still a top 3 quarterback, but nobody will really argue that he's not a top 12 quarterback. And, a team that was kind of devoid of receiver in a draft that's full of receivers, I can totally understand why people wanted them to take a weapon for Aaron Rodgers and take a receiver. And I will even allow the negative draft value as not being bad value because it was a quarterback. I totally get if you're a value guy, if we're talking about value, taking a quarterback is almost never, because of the convexity of it, the payoff could be so big, to where it's just parabolically going up if you hit that Mahomes, if you hit that Russell Wilson, if you hit that Tom Brady. Like, there's so much possibility of payoff that I can't just denounce what they did with that first pick, other than to say, man, did they open a can of worms? And that's a separate conversation. But if you go to their second pick, just as bad as it was the worst at the time. It was by far the worst pick of the draft. And here they are taking a negative 59 guy, negative 59 points. Okay, so it's an 84 point draft pick, their second round pick, and they only got 25 points of value on that. And that's because if we go to the actual pick here, It's A.J. Dillon. It's a running back, and running backs. Any analytics person knows that taking a running back is bad value because it's just that's an analytics take that's a deeper dive to go in. But in general, taking a running back, you don't want to do that. And when you do, you want to take a guy that's like a first round type talent who's slipped into the second round. They take A.J. Dillon, who I barely heard of. He's out of Cincinnati. He's like a fullback. He's like a big power back. And to me, it's just Green Bay, trying to get their Travis Henry. And bottom line, he was a consensus 110th best player. And he's a position of not value at running back. And the Packers already have a really good running back. So, to me, that's a horrible pick. And then they even backed it up with a 40-point pick. They got barely any value. They took a guy who on some boards, with their next pick, sorry, I got to scroll down to their next pick. This Josiah DeGuara, and or the other guy was from Boston College. This guy was basically a fullback H-back tight end combo. He's a blocker. He's just a blocking back guy. Those guys are free agents. Great blocking fullbacks are usually free agents. They took a guy who was rated 225th with the 94th pick at a super low value position, lower than running back. I mean, this is insane. When you look at some of the Devin Duvernay, some of the guys just around him here, that were bigger names and much bigger positions. I mean, the Vikings got a corner, a high value corner just right around the same time. And I don't know. I can't overstate how bad I think the Packers drafted. It just total disrespect to value. They took 370 points of value and got 230 points. The Bears were terrible. The Packers were worse. And most of their value, almost all the Packers' value of this 234, 180 of it was from this guy they drafted who's not even going to be a good backup quarterback this year. He's a project to replace Rodgers 3 years down the road. So outside of that, they literally got almost nothing. We talk about you get chip, chair, and a chance. So yeah, they got bodies who could pay off, but the value they could have so easily traded back and still gotten these two players. Forget the quarterback. Say they took a backup quarterback. They could have traded back and got so much value. They could have got these guys 2 rounds minimum later. In my opinion, I think they could have got these guys 2 rounds later. It's terrible.
2 rounds later, they could have got something similar. I'm sure there was a lot of other guys to choose from. This is absolutely baffling. As a Packers fan, I would definitely be confused. We go get a quarterback, we go get a running back. Last I checked, the two they have are playing pretty well. Anyway, you're 13-3. I guess you have some core guys. You might be back next year and do some good things. We'll see what they do. But let's save the best for last. Let's go to Detroit next. We'll save the best for last. And
yeah, Detroit. I'll just go quickly with Detroit. They had the 3rd pick, spot value, got 500 points of value. They had expected to get 800 points, got 865. Their net value of all their picks in aggregate. Now they took a running back in the 2nd round, but they took one with huge value, totally different than what the Packers did. The Green Bay. I mean, Detroit took one of the best football players, in the whole draft. And we'll go to this. Just zoom in real quick. Sorry.
No problem.
With DeAndre Swift. I mean, this is a guy, who 10 years ago, before running backs became devalued because people kind of figured it out that there's so many of them that you can replace them cheaply. This guy would have been like a top 5 pick back in 10 years ago. And so, but they waited till the proper time. They got really good consensus value for taking a non-value position, which I think is smart and respects kind of where you should draft these guys, and didn't if they were going to draft someone further down the line, they could have traded back. anyway, they did a really good job of value. They got 915 points of total value, which is a huge haul. You know, they got Jeffrey Okuda. Just they got bodies. They got 9 guys. So they got 9. You know, all the good things from a draft. Detroit got it. You know, great job, Detroit.
Yeah, nice work, and they get their quarterback back this year, hopefully healthy for him. See how he does. And let's just go ahead and move on to the Minnesota Vikings. They had a lot of picks. They seem to be kind of crafty with their maneuvering, kind of putting on a clinic, it looked like. To most analysts say they did a pretty good job.
Yeah, I mean, the Vikings, they're known, and this is, being a Vikings fan, a lot of this, like I said, Arif Hassan puts this together, and these consensus, and historically they do very well. The Vikings are big on admitting that they can't outthink the draft, that they can't outthink the other 31 teams, that they're always going to maneuver for value, and they'll pick their spots, so you can see, I'll just go over that quickly. They took a negative guy here. They took a negative guy there, and that's probably a spot where they weren't able to trade back, or they really like the guy enough better. But these are small numbers. And then everywhere else, they kind of came right in line. And then even late in the round, they picked up some really good value with some guys. And there's no way you could talk about their whole draft. They took 15 guys. And some people, will make the claim like, oh, you can't sign them all. Well, so what? Like you don't have to pay their contract if you don't sign them. So draft them all, because they're all going to go out and sign, more free agents afterwards anyway. But they took 400 points. They traded Stephon Diggs, which I get is a serious player, but they created a lot of extra value. It's a lot, 269 extra points, which is an extra first round plus. And they respected value. They got extra value for their picks. They got extra bodies by trading back. So they got extra cracks at it, which I think is important also. I'd rather have, a distributed risk to have 700 points distributed over 15 is better than having 700 points in one guy, because that one guy tears his ACL and you're out. We can go back and forth over the how much benefit distributing the risk is, but I personally like it. And so just flat out, this is a team that respects value, that has a history of drafting good players, has a lot of their own draft picks starring for their team now. And we can talk on and on about it, but when you draft a guy, you get to keep your guy. You generally can keep him for a little bit less money on the salary cap than going out and getting in a free agent auction. So that's always the worst value you're going to get, is when you have to basically compete against multiple other teams to get a guy. But sometimes you need to do that just to be competitive. And so the more guys you have under contract that are good from the draft on, makes you a better team, in my opinion.
Yes, they certainly wanted to address revamping their secondary. That looked like a major priority for them. They get some quality guys to come in and compete with the guys that are already there. That pretty much sums up our draft analysis for the NFC North. Be sure to go over to the podcast. Just look for the logo. We got some more information on there for the draft, for the breakdown of each of the divisions. We'll pick up next time with the NFC East. Let's go. No, which one? The NFC West. We'll come back with something. We're going to do some more analysis, so stick with us. Thanks for tuning in, and be sure to tune in next time on Jack of All Trades.